Okay. Having studied differential calculus in detail, theory of differential calculus, developing theory of differential calculus systematically, now it is time to go and figure out with what do we mean by integral calculus, what is its use, how it is useful in solving problems and solving day-to-day problems, real life problems. We will get into that. But a good part of integral calculus is does not have much theory to develop. Very few theorems and very few proofs. Majority of the time that we are going to spend on integral calculus is for on basically searching something, policing, finding out your you have those stories, na suspense, murder कोणी केला शोधून काढायचंय. That kind of activity we are supposed to do in integral calculus. It is more going to be trial and error. It is more going to be towards hard work compared to a systematic, straightforward solving the problem. Because integral, or before we start using the word integral, we should use the word antiderivative, is something which we wish to find out. We know if we have been given a function and we want to find out derivative of that function, which geometrically we know what is the slope of tangent at that point, etc. We found out it is relatively easy to find the differential. But if a function is given to us and we are asked whose derivative is that, then this is a really difficult question. Because unless and until you search or you know which function after differentiating looks like this, it is going to be difficult to answer this. It is the inverse that we are asking. It is the opposite direction we are trying to search. If I ask you to multiply x plus y by x minus y, we can always multiply component to component and find out the answer in RHS as x square minus y square. But if somebody who does not know this multiplication, who does not know the cancellation of xy terms in the multiplication, if somebody is asked to factorize x square minus y square, unless and until he has experience of multiplication, he won't be able to find out those factors very quickly, very easily. I am giving you this example is because we all know that factorizing x square minus y square is extremely easy. What I am trying to is x plus y into x minus y is equal to what? It's very easy question. Because why it is easy? Because we have an algorithm of multiplication. Multiply polynomials. First term into first term, x square. First term, second term, minus xy. Second term, first term, plus xy. Get cancelled. And then second term to second term is minus. So it is easy to write x square minus y square because we have got a procedure. However, if you do not have this procedure or if you do not know this result, then factorize x square minus y square, very difficult. Similarly, ddx of x raised to n is nx raised to n minus 1. Easy. But if suppose somebody asks what is the antiderivative of x raised to 1 upon 2, oh, very difficult. And antiderivative, soon we will start writing it like this or something with respect to x, something like that. Very difficult. unless you have experience of solving this, unless you have previously done this kind of stuff. So essentially studying antiderivative or studying integral calculus is searching something which you go back, check whether I have solved something like this, then can I TKP it, can I change its form and make it look like what my earlier problem was and then solve it, something like that. So of course we will have methods of doing it, but all the methods eventually basically are investigations, figuring out how to reach the final conclusion. And it might happen that you never get, sometimes you might not get the solution. It might happen that you are searching for something. आता आपलं कोण आता कोविडच्या काळात त्याचं इन्व्हेस्टिगेशन चालू होतं, मुंबई पोलिसांनी केलं, सीबीआय करतात, फायनली नथिंग इज हॅपन, मॅटर क्लोज्ड. वेदर इट इज सुसाइड ऑर इट इज अ मर्डर, कोण आपला तो हिरो, त्याचं अजून कळलेलं नाहीये, फायनल झालं नाही, इन्व्हेस्टिगेशन केलं. इट इज लाईक इंटिग्रेट, यू आर सर्चिंग फॉर समथिंग, you follow some methods, follow some other methods, then if you are lucky you will get it, if you are not lucky you will not get it. It is like, so that is the preamble, that is the prastavana. Okay, so solving integral problem is readiness for investigation, readiness for putting in lot of efforts, because I mean every student might choose some different path for finding out the integral, finding out the antiderivative. Some students will get it very quickly, some students will take it long time, some students may not get it. You should be patient, you should be putting in your efforts you must know the standard and you must know how to TKP them, convert the existing problem in the problem whose solution is known to us, and keep applying your common sense, ability of solving problems, keep working hard, and eventually if the problem is good, well designed, and it really does have antiderivative, then you will get it. And then the pleasure that you will get of having found out the antiderivative is very, 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 very high compared to the pleasure that you get after finding out a different derivative of some function. Suppose a complex function is given, cos of 3x raised to 7 minus 5x plus 2 log x, find the derivative of this. Oh, okay, I mean you keep applying chain rule, eventually you will get the derivative, but there is no pleasure out of it. There is a chance that you will make mistake in taking the derivative, applying the chain rule, etc. But in integral, if you put in lot of hard work and eventually suppose you get the answer and suppose it is correct, you get lot of pleasure. So that is the motivation that we must keep with ourselves, that if I can solve integral problem, I am really a good mathematics student. Because there is no algorithm. You have to develop your own style of solving problems. That is what is the prerequisite of it. And that is the reason why it is taught at the end of the course. It is a job of a mature student to understand the methods and figure out what should be the antiderivative of given function. नाही तर सोडून द्या तुम्ही, तुम्हाला आठवीतच शिकवायची सुरुवात केली तर मला जाऊ द्या, बघू त्याच्यापेक्षा आपण काहीतरी दुसरं चित्रकला करू, काहीतरी कॉमर्सचं काहीतरी करू किंवा असं. सो मॅथमॅटिकल स्टुडंट्स नीड टू बी नर्चर्ड लाईक दिस विथ सिस्टमॅटिक एफर्ट्स टू डील विथ डिफिकल्ट topics like this. So therefore it is not difficult topic, it is actually very interesting topic, provided you start developing your interest in it. I had a student 12 years before. He was not IIT aspirant, but he was mad behind solving integrals. The moment you give him a book, he will solve all the book and all the problems on integral calculus from that book. So eventually he was the boss of integral calculus. And he was very happy to receive problems from other students and solve that. बाकी ठीक होता, पण मग इंटिग्रल कॅल्क्युलसने त्याला काय जी काही किक आली सुरुवात केल्यावर शिकवायला, सगळे प्रॉब्लेम त्याने सोडवून टाकले फटाफट. लक्षात येते का? And then there are many other topics which are dependent on finding out antiderivative, differential equations, applications of integral calculus, etc. Therefore, we want you to be very, very systematically learning this, practicing well at home, and the standard methods should naturally come to your mind the moment you look at the new problem. That is going to be our process of learning integral calculus. And as I said, there is not much theory, but whatever it is, we will start. इथे अजून एक बटन असायचं ते गायब कसं झालं माझं. आता मला दुसरा स्क्रीन नाटकच करतो मायक्रोसॉफ्ट मध्ये. let f be defined from a to b. Let there exist capital F from a to b to r such that for every x belonging to a comma b, f dash of x is equal to f of x. We say that capital F is antiderivative or primitive of f over a comma b. We write it as integral f of x dx okay. Now d dx of f of x is equal to f of x is same as, is exactly equivalent to integral f of x or antiderivative f of x dx is equal to capital X. Exactly equivalent. So if you write this is same as if you write this, it is exactly equivalent. Meaning is exactly same. Note, if capital F is antiderivative of f over a comma b, then capital F plus c is also an antiderivative of f over a comma b, c belongs to r. It's a constant of integration, eventually we will call it. Okay. So this is the definition. So there should not be any question in this. Definitions are to be accepted as it is. Further, if G is any other derivative, other antiderivative of f over a comma b, then there exists C belonging to R such that for every x belonging to a comma b, g of x is equal to capital F of x plus C. So, if you happen to find out two antiderivatives of one function, then this says, I mean, maybe we can call this as theorem. Then this statement says that they must differ by constant. I mean, it is not going to happen that two different looking functions, capital F and capital G, altogether different functions, cannot be the antiderivatives of the same function. Proof. I wait for some time, try to write the proof. Why? This is important. Of course, we have to take help of our differential calculus for doing this. But it said that capital G and capital F are two antiderivatives of small f over a comma b. Is that right? So capital G is differentiable over x a comma b closed intervals. Capital F also is differentiable over a comma b closed intervals. And when you really find out the derivatives of capital G and capital F over closed interval a comma b, you end up getting f of x as the derivative of g of x. Okay, so because g and f are differentiable functions over a comma b, they are continuous differentiable, and therefore we can consider function h of x is equal to g of x minus f of x. We have said that difference function is also going to be differentiable over a comma b. So h is continuous and differentiable over a comma b. H is differentiable over a comma b. Right? So applying.
Your voice is lagging.
My voice is lagging for all?
No, sir.
Okay. So I will speak little slowly. Okay. Applying Lagrange's mean value theorem over closed interval a comma x, where a is less than x is less than equal to b, closed interval, what we get? H of x minus h of a upon x minus a is equal to h of d, h dash of d, where d belongs to a comma x. It will have slope of tangent will be equal to slope of chord between a and h if it is a differentiable function. However, h of d, h dash of, if we differentiate this, what we will get? H dash of x is equal to g dash of x minus f dash of x. So h dash of d is going to be g dash of d minus f dash of d. But it is said that g and f are antiderivatives of the same function. So it is f of f at d, which is equal to f at d minus f at d, which is equal to 0. That means this ratio is 0 for all x between a to b, right? So x and a are distinct, therefore you can cross multiply and get it to 0, which implies h of x minus h of a is equal to 0 for every x belonging to a comma b. This implies h of a is equal to h of x, which implies this is done. H of x is equal to h of a. Therefore, g of a minus f of a is equal to g of x minus f of x, and therefore this implies g of x is equal to f of x plus constant. This is going to be some constant. Is that okay? And hence true. Verse theorem. Next theorem. Let 56%. Let f1 comma f2 comma capital F1 comma capital F2 be defined from a comma b to r. If 1 for every x belonging to a comma b, one dash of x is equal to f of x, f1 of x, and 2 for every x belonging to a comma b, f2 dash of x is equal to f2 of x. Then 3 integral, antiderivative f1 of x plus f2 of x dx is equal to integral f1 of x dx plus antiderivative f2 of x dx. Absolutely easy to prove. I am not going to see your proof also. Write and complete it. How are you going to go about it? LHS is equal to कोण दाखवतोय मला सांगा कोणीतरी. How have you written it?
So we can consider a function f capital F1 of x plus capital F2 of x.
Okay,
derivative.
Consider capital F is equal to F1 plus F2. Okay, then
Yes, sir. So then the derivative of f will be equal, f dash will be equal to f1 dash plus f2 dash of x.
hmm,
And this is also equal to from statements 1 and 2. This is also equal to small f1 of x plus small f2 of x.
this will be also equal to F1 of X plus F2 of X. Yes. So
So so f is a function uh, whose derivative is f1 of x plus f2 of x. So f should be
in antiderivative,
antiderivative of.
F is equal to equivalent
So
statement.
it is LHS in the third
Integral
statement.
F1 of X plus F2 of X dx is equal to LHS. Yes.
And the RHS is also equal to antiderivative of f1 of x dx, which is equal to f1 dash
Hmm.
plus f2 dash.
RHS is equal to integral F1 of X dx plus, I mean here you apply the definition, right? F1 dash, नाही काय करायचं बरोबर आहे का? From here to here, from dash to f you got, and you got into integral. So from dash to integral, correct hai? Plus
So
integral.
from this statement, we can show that RHS is equal to capital F1 plus capital F2, which is
Uh,
also F, and so we can show that it is equal to LHS.
yeah, is equal to capital F1 plus F2, which is equal to this and this dx, which is RHS. Okay, so addition subtraction is done, and what else we will require is composition. So let us write down something for composition and prove it. Theorem. Let G be defined from C comma D to R. Let G be differentiable over C comma D. Let range of G be contained in A comma B. Let capital F be defined from A comma B to R. Let F dash exist on A comma B, and F dash of X is equal to F of X. Then integral G dash of X into F of G of X dx is equal to capital F of G of X plus C. Okay, so considering the composition of a function, this is the important result that we should have. So if you end up getting something like this in the integral sign, then that directly you can write antiderivative as this. proof. ddx of okay. So that is all about the theory. We should now start looking at problem. But before that, let us discuss few questions. Question 1. Does every function possess antiderivative? Question 2. Is antiderivative unique if it exists? Question 3. Is it always possible to find an antiderivative? Okay, so now I ask you these questions, you tell me the answers, or you may think for some time and tell me the answers. Can somebody throw some light on this if you know some answers? Does every function possess an antiderivative?
Or it should be continuous over its domain.
That is what he's saying. If it is a continuous, then yes, every function possesses an antiderivative. That is what is Pranav saying. Now there are two things in this. Presently, maybe first few lectures, at least I think 3 to 4 weeks, we are going to study indefinite integral. And after that, we will study definite integral. What is the difference between these two? The basic difference is indefinite integral is searching for antiderivative, searching for a function whom we differentiate, we get our original function back. So it's a search operation, and if we are successful in finding out the function, then majority of the work is over. And then what is the definite integral? Definite integral has something more to do with geometry. If you know the curve, if you know the nature of the curve, then between the limits A and B, I mean under what domain consideration you are operating, A and B, for our notation since morning what we are using, what is the area under the curve between A and B, vertical lines, and x-axis, which is horizontal line? That is going to be the interpretation of definite integral. And therefore, if you have been given some function and if you really do not know the antiderivative, there are methods by which you can figure out what is the area under the curve, and that is going to be a number, that is going to be a constant. because it's an area and it is not going to be a function. So we can say majority of the functions whose graph is known, which can be plotted, we can find out the definite integral part. We can find out the area under the curve between A and B and x-axis by many advanced methods, because these days measuring area is not really that difficult compared to what it was earlier, and therefore even if the function is very complicated, even if the function has no simple looking antiderivative or has antiderivative which is known to us, an easy function or a function which can be differentiated to get the required function, but still between the two finite limits we can evaluate the area under the curve and we can find out what we can say is the definite integral of that function. And as Pranav is saying that if the function is continuous, it is easy. Because if it is continuous, you need not have to worry about the graph. It will take care. I mean, all the points will be available in between. But even if it is not continuous everywhere and discontinuous at some points or finitely many points, you can put it in parts and evaluate the area under the curve. And yes, that number can be made available if it comes to definite integral. But if it is, I mean, if you really want a function, I'm not interested in area under the curve. I'm not interested in that constant. I want a function whom if I differentiate, I get the required function. That is what is antiderivative typically we mean. We will also say it's an indefinite integral. Then the answer is no, you may not end up getting a simple function whose derivative is given function for every given function. That is the key thing that you must understand in integral calculus. So if it comes to bounded interval, known boundaries, yes, we can find out the area under the curve. We can, definite integral can be found out. But if it is, if you want a function, it is not going to be always available. Antiderivative, does every function possess an antiderivative? No. Because finding out antiderivative of every function, there is a no prescribed method by which you give, I mean the function is given to you and by following so many steps you get an antiderivative. That's an idea. You will end up having some functions whose antiderivative is still not known. For example, sine of x square, antiderivative is not known. Log of log x, antiderivative is not known. And there are many like this. Okay, we have to live with them. But we can always plot graph of sine x square, and if you give some boundaries, say 0 to 5, I want what is the definite integral of sine x square. Of course we can find out. Of course we can find out. I hope I am clear as far as question 1 is concerned. Question 2 and question 3 are easy, we have already discussed. Is antiderivative unique if it exists? No, it's not unique. But what would be the difference? They differ by constant. I mean, they are not going to be altogether different functions. Say for example, derivative of log tan x by 2 and derivative of log cosec x minus cot x. Log tan x by 2 and log cosec x minus cot x are two different looking functions, but their derivative is cosec x. Both of them have derivative cosec x. So we may end up saying that integral of cosec x is log tan x by 2 or log cosec x minus cot x. But if you simplify using your trigonometry skills, you will find that they are not two different functions, they are one and the same. Log tan x and log cosec x minus cot x, they are same. As far as question 3 is concerned, Is it always possible to find out an antiderivative? Of course, we will study different methods to find it out, but nobody guarantees about alwaysness. Maybe on one day I might not be able to find out antiderivative of a very simple function. Okay. And there are, as I said, there are functions whose antiderivatives are still not known. I mean, so much of research must have gone into it so far, but still it is not available. Oh. So if you want to be good in integral calculus, might as well you should be good in differential calculus, because that is the only way you can find out antiderivatives. If you do not know differential calculus, integral calculus is going to be extremely difficult. Okay, let me use this space. Let us list down the antiderivatives that we already know. 1. Standard antiderivatives. Standard one, integral x raised to n dx. 2. Integral 1 upon x dx. 3. Integral cos x dx. 4. Integral sin x dx. 5. Integral sec square x dx. 6. Integral cosec square x dx. 7. Integral sec x tan x dx. 8. Integral cosec x cot x dx. 9. Integral e raised to x dx. 10. Integral a raised to x dx. 11. Integral 1 upon 1 minus x square root dx. 12. Integral 1 upon 1 plus x square dx. 13. Integral 1 upon x radical x square minus 1 dx. Okay. Complete the table, because you are aware of all the functions whose derivatives are these functions inside integral sign. These are the first 13. So if you happen to have something like this, you should directly write, "Array, I know that this is derivative of this, and hence antiderivative is this." X raised to n, x raised to n plus 1 upon n plus 1 plus c. If n is not equal to minus. Integral 1 upon x is log mod x plus c. Cos x is sin x plus c. Minus cos x plus c. Sec square is plus minus cot x plus c. Sec x plus c minus cosec x. E raised to x is e raised to x. A raised to x runner. A raised to x.
1 log a.
Log a. Plus, this is sine inverse x is equal to minus cos inverse also will have same, and plus c plus this is tan inverse of x plus c or minus cot inverse of x plus whatever. This is sec inverse of x plus c or minus cosec inverse of x. Done. So these are the 13 ones. Good. Now, let integral f of x dx is equal to phi of x. Find integral f of ax plus b dx, where a and b are constants. Prove integral k times f of x dx is equal to k times integral f of x dx. चला 2-2 मिनिटात कंप्लीट करा. Okay, so this is very easy. If phi of x is antiderivative of f of x, then antiderivative of f of ax plus b is going to be 1 upon a times phi of ax plus b. The answer for first will be 1 upon a times phi of ax plus b. And this is very simple. Okay. Now, example number 1. These are going to be very simple examples initially, and you never know. Suddenly you start finding it difficult. Every individual will start finding it difficult at different stage, depending upon his or her expertise in differential calculus. But eventually, everybody will be at pi. Example number 1. Let us call it as E1. Integral a plus b cos x upon sin square x dx. You are supposed to show me what is the antiderivative of this function. As this is the first problem, should be easy. What we can do is, can we convert this problem into the problem whose solution is known to us? So yes, integral a cosec square x dx, we have proved this. f1 of x and f2 of x, summation. The summation of integral is integral of summation. Integral b cot x cosec x dx. It is one and the same. Trigonometric simplification. That is why we need to be good at trigonometry. Now, is this my standard? A can be taken out by this theorem. Integral cosec square x minus cot x. Integral cot x cosec x minus cosec x. So what we have learned is, using algebraic and trigonometric simplification, we can convert the given integral into the standard integral whose solution is known to us. Problem number 2. Integral x plus 1 divided by radical x plus 3 dx. initial algebraic simple integral, you write x plus 3 minus 2 upon radical x plus 3 dx. Integral radical x plus 3 dx minus 2 integral x plus 3 raised to half dx. Is that right? No. Minus half. बरोबर आहे का? Both these are doable. Therefore, the answer is 2 by 3 x plus 3 raised to 3 by 2 minus 4 inside bracket x plus 3 raised to half plus c. Example number 3. Integral sine square x. Example number 4. Integral sine 4x cos 3x dx is equal to E5 integral tan square x dx. Now we know sine, we know ax plus b, therefore you should convert sine square into 2 theta 2x and solve it. The answer is x by 2 minus sine 2x by 4 plus c. Again compound angle formulae. Sine cos is what? Sine plus sine. You have to use that and solve it. Answer is minus 1 by 14 cos 7x minus 1 half cos x plus c. Again, trigonometry formula, tan square you have to use, and if you have sec square x, then we know the antiderivative, and therefore answer is tan x minus x plus c. Okay, example number 5. Example number 6. These are easy examples today because we are just starting. What square x dx is 7. Integral sine cube x dx is 8. Integral radical 1 plus sine x dx is equal to option 1 by 1. Okay, answer for E6 is minus cot x minus x plus c. E7 is minus 3 by 4. You need to go into 3 theta formula. We find sine cube x there. 3 by 4 cos x plus 1 by 12 cos 3x plus c. And what is radical? Trigonometry. 1 is equal to cos square x plus sin square x. Sin x is or 1 is equal to cos square x by 2 plus sin x square x by 2. Sin x is equal to 2 sin x by 2 cos x by 2. Then complete square, take root, etc. And you will find the answer minus 2 cos x by 2 plus 2 sin x by 2 plus. Okay. Any explanation if you want for any, you can tell. E9 integral sin x upon 1 plus sin x dx. Now I will write one at a time so that it is easy for me to check. Okay, sin x multiply and divide by 1 minus sin x. You get sin x minus sin square upon 1 minus sin square. 1 minus sin square becomes cos square. And then if you split, you get sin x upon cos square x, sin square x upon cos square x. So it is sec tan first term, and another is sec square x minus 1. And then these are standard integrals. You will get final answer as sec x minus tan x plus c. Next problem is integral 1 upon sin square x cos square x dx. Okay, both for E10 there are two answers, minus cot 2x by 2 if you do it this way, because this is cosec square 2x, whose answer is minus cot 2x by 2. But then I think this 4 need to be taken care.
Sir, I think it should be minus 2 cot 2x.
Yes, sir. तो 4 आएगा बाहर.
अच्छा म्हणजे हा divided by 2 नको ना. Okay. Answer should be minus 2 cot 2x, and which is also, if you substitute 1 as cos square x plus sin square x upon sin square x into cos square x dx, then you get cosec square x plus sec square x. Which is tan x minus cot x plus c. And we have trigonometrically checked whether these are same or not. Then they are same. You can also cross check. So it is in line with what theorem we have proved. Next, problem number 11. Integral sin square x cos square x dx. Easy. E12 integral cos 4th x dx. There are 3 terms. If you combine first two and 1/2 integral 2 cos x 2x times cos 3x dx. Okay. Can we apply formula for that bracket? Yes. Which is 1/2 integral cos is cos plus cos 3x plus cos x, correct, into cos 3x dx is equal to, now we make it 1/4 because we want 2 in each. Two cos 3x plus 2 cos x cos 3x dx, which is 1/4 integral. Now actually this is cos is cos plus cos, and therefore cos 6x plus cos 0 बराबर चालेल रे, प्लस cos 4x plus cos 2x dx. Everybody is available in cos, therefore final answer is x by 4 plus sine 2x by 8 plus sine 4x by 16 plus sine 6x by 24 plus, that is answer. Now, one thing sometimes we should do is, if we really differentiate this, cross check whether we get this or not, and you will find that you get this. So really this is antiderivative of this function. Okay, that is what for lecture number 1 on integral calculus today. And I stop share, stop recording.